Hi, teammates. This is Sean J. McCall, and I am your host for the Eurostep, the podcast that looks behind the scenes of European basketball, but not only European basketball, but other sports as well. And not just about players or coaches or agents that are in Europe, but also good basketball stories. And that's what I'm looking for this podcast so people can learn about different people and their stories, their struggles, their strengths, their weaknesses. And I'm really excited to have my guest on today. Before we get started, please look at the bottom of your screen. In the comment section, you can throw a question in there if you'd like to ask one during the course of the live, and I'll try to get it in there. Or, if you do that, then everybody will see it in the chat. And if you click on the question mark with the speech bubble around it, then only I see it, and I'll click on it as this show is going on, and I'll try to get your questions answered. Sometimes it's something that I already have on my list of questions anyway. But yeah, so ready to get started. Really excited to have my first guest on. He's going to tell me how to pronounce his name because I butchered it already. Jalon Bransford is my guest for tonight, and although he never played overseas, right? That's usually my connection, some kind of connection with playing overseas basketball. Although he never played overseas, he's got a really good thing going on that I'm really excited to hear more about with his something he does. I guess I won't spill all the beans yet, but he's got something really good going on, and he's doing good things outside of just playing. He's not a player anymore, but we'll get into all of that. I'm excited to have him on, and this has been long coming as well. So yeah, he's multifaceted, and we want to get him in right now. So hold on tight. Let me add him into the invite. Started. So he should be popping up. And there we go.
Yo,
So before we do anything, I apologize for butchering your name, man. You sent me a message earlier. I asked you to send me a message earlier. You sent it to me earlier, and I somehow still managed to butcher it. So please introduce yourself.
what's going on, people? My name is Jalon Bransford. Peace.
Okay. Okay. So now that we got that out of the way, Jalon, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming on to talk to my teammates and tell us a little bit about your story, what you got going on, and that's what we're going to jump right into right now. So, I kind of said that you have a lot going on. You
Yeah,
got in my comment section, I wrote that you're very eclectic. You have a lot of different interests, and that's what we're gonna jump in. But what I want to start with is um, the fact that you live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. You were born and raised there, right?
absolutely.
And what's kind of unusual these days is that someone is born somewhere, they go away to college maybe, and then they come back and live.
Yeah,
What is it about Harrisburg that kind of made you want to stick around? Well, how was it growing up there, and how is it living there now?
man, that's a great question. So, to me, I feel like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is just an untapped resource, period. There's so many talented individuals here from music to art, creatives, athletes. Um, a lot of talented people from this area in Pennsylvania in general. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was always important to go away, which I did when I went to Newman University in Aston, Pennsylvania, still in Pennsylvania, period. Um, but for me, it was very important to come back and always just give away or bring back something that I've learned to my community. So that's why I've always joined, man, and that's why I'm here. This is home. I love it here.
What was it like growing up there as opposed to now? Is it different when you were coming up as a kid to how you see things now?
Yeah, it's absolutely different. I think when you're young, you kind of have like this very small perspective of how big things really look,
Yeah.
right? Like, probably if you go to your childhood home, if you ever have that
Yeah.
opportunity,
Yeah.
and you go to your bedroom, you're like, damn, this
It
is
was
small as
small as
hell.
crap.
Like, yo, this was like a mansion to me, though, at some
Right.
point in time.
Right.
So for me, in terms of the size of the city, I look at it from that standpoint, but more so the resources and opportunities and all the really cool things that are happening in the area. It's very, very unique. It's a lot of, I'd say, taste, very eclectic, and it's just really cool, man. There's a lot of fascinating things happening here. So
Okay. Um, what's your first basketball memory?
In general,
Yeah, what's the first thing when you can remember as a kid that like pops up like that's my first like really thought about basketball?
oh man, there's so many. I'd probably have to say, to be honest with you, Gus Macker for me was everything.
Hmm.
And Gus Macker was
Yeah.
a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. It was held on Front Street in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I think eventually they went on to the Round Ball Classic, if you
Mhm.
will, and that was held at different municipalities, different parts of the country. I even believe you could have played nationally if you won that much, if you were that
Right,
good. But
right.
that particular time in the 90s, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, was crazy.
It's popping.
Crazy. I mean, they shut down the entire, like, Front Street goes on for miles. So they shut down the entire street, and it's just court to court to court to court to court to court. And there's tons of people. It's packed. It's very competitive. There's a lot of trash talk going on. There's girls out there. Everybody's trying to get fly and just be a part of the
Right.
energy and the atmosphere. And although I never played in that because I was just too young, but I did have an older sibling that was just a star, and he played with some very, very talented guys. And I was just around soaking all that up. Like, I cannot wait to have my turn and be a part of that. So that was one of the biggest memories that I've had in hoops.
How important was hoops to you growing up? You said you had an older sibling that played and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Was it kind of like ingrained in your family kind of DNA that you were going to be a hooper, your brother was
Yeah,
a hooper, kind of like that as well?
yeah, it's in my DNA, my entire family. So I'm a Bransford. I'm more so identify as a Logan though, as my mother's side. Uh, my entire family is just athletes.
Mhm.
We're creatives, and anything that we do, it is very distinguished, established. Whatever it is that you do, go hard in that, become a master, a professional, and pass that on to the next individual. For example, like shout out my cousin KK Bransford. She is a freshman right now at the University of Notre Dame. Shout out to Kylie. She plays at Mount Notre Dame Prep right now in Cincinnati, Ohio, and she's a freshman as well, started varsity. Ken Griffey Jr. is my cousin's second cousin on my mother's side. Mark Logan played fullback for the San Francisco 49ers. DeAndre Hill ran track, Olympian, broke
Mhm.
records at Mount Healthy. There's just history of my family being athletes.
Right.
So that's where it came from me, man, to be very honest with you. And basketball is just something that stuck for me, to be very, very real with you. I was that younger sibling who just tagged along every single where.
Me
And
too. Me
I
too.
was just, it's like all the things that I do now in terms of teaching basketball, very specific take on movement and things of that nature and dribbling. I really didn't do any of that stuff when I was a kid, to be real with you. I
That's
just took a
crazy.
ball, right? We played.
Yeah. Yeah. You went to the park, you played.
Take a ball, take your backpack. I'm just going to dribble to wherever I'm at. And it was just moving. And then just watching and one tapes for hours on end. And then, like, all right, yo, I'm going to go try this out on somebody today. And, that's what hoops was for me, man.
When you said something that really triggered me because I know like now we're going to talk about personal trainers or trainers in general. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
um, I'm almost 50, so so I'm old. But there was no there was no trainers or anything like that. So I just followed my brother to the park.
Right.
He would make sure I was on his team. He's 5 years older than me, so I was little. But he made sure I got that run in against the bigger kids. And
Right.
I one thing what you said what triggered me was the fact that you said like he just took a ball and he just dribbled wherever you went. And my mother would send me to the store. I took my ball, I was dribbling. Okay, I'm gonna dribble all the way to the store, just using my right hand, going in and out, in and out, in and out. And on the way back, I'm gonna go left-handed, in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's how I developed my handles. There was no YouTube, there was no personal
Right.
trainer telling me stuff. There was nobody's out there with cones.
Right.
So is that how it was for you as well?
Yeah, man. I was an M1 kid. I was a Nodic kid. If you're really a hooper, If you're really ingrained in the culture, you know about Fanatic, you know about King Handles
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Grayson,
Those are the forerunners. Yeah.
Goosebumps. Like, you know about very, very particular guys. EBC for me was huge. I'll be right back. Best Kept Secret, Bone Collector. I can go on and on and on and do this all day. Boogers, Skip. Like, these guys were legends to me, and they still
Right.
are.
Right.
And I didn't see them doing any particular drills. They literally were just moving. And I was like, how are they moving like that? Let me just focus on copying their patterns and what they're doing with the ball. And that's what I did, man. Anytime I would go to the park, because it's a long walk for me, essentially. Well, I don't think it's long now, but at the time it seemed like it took forever. So it went from going outside of the house that I grew up in on Smith Street. There's a basketball court right across the alley. So I'd go there from watching tapes for hours, go to the basketball court across the way. All right, I might hit Northside Elementary, was where I went to middle school at. I'm sorry, elementary school. Might hoop over there with some friends, maybe go over there by myself. And then, okay, I'm going to shoot over to Brightville Park. And Brightville was where all the
The
runs were
Hoopers.
at.
Mhm.
Yep. So I'd envision, okay, this is what I see, this is what I'm practicing. And on the way there, that walk, I'm just like, yep, I'm going to
Yeah.
hit somebody up with this today. And it's just practicing that. And over time, it just developed, man. It just became extremely easy. And that's just what I became known for. So
Yeah.
that was my journey to, development and learning. There weren't any trainers, dog. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
Did you play any other sports, or were you purely a basketball guy?
You want to know something? My newfound, and I'm sure we'll touch base on that in particular because I don't want to jump the gun, but the way that I've learned to train now, I think it's just super funny because of all the different things that I used to participate in. Shout out to my pops. My dad was very forward thinking. He exposed us to as many different things as possible, and they just so happened to tie into whatever your art form was that you specialized in, whatever you
Right.
chose, because he didn't force anything on us. He didn't
Mhm.
force anything. And once again, I was that kid. I tagged along wherever. I had siblings, so we were always together. But played football for a year. Nah, didn't like it. It's not because it's a contact sport, but I was just like, nah, this isn't my thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, nah, I'm good. We can play fumble rumble all day at the
Yeah.
park, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to play in a game. I'm
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
Uh, Never played soccer. I tried baseball, played baseball for a little bit. It was just too boring, man. There's not enough action, I ice skated actually, just recreationally. I don't
Hmm.
know if there's too many black people that ice skated, but
I,
yo.
I wasn't gonna go there. I was just thinking. I was just thinking. Okay, he was probably the only black dude out there. But okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yep. Me and my siblings, like, it was a thing. Like, I'm pretty sure for you, like, did you roller skate at some point in time in your
Yeah,
childhood?
that's what I was thinking. Like everybody roller skated, but nobody was on that ice.
Right. So you know, my parents, they were more so my mom, roller skater.
Hmm.
We roller bladed, and then it was just a thing to, okay, like, we're gonna go to the Star. That's what a particular place was called at the time, like way back then. But that's what we did. We would go there and just skate and dance to the music. But then it was the same thing for a small period of time in the 90s to where everybody was ice skating, and that was the place to go. So definitely ice skated. And that was pretty much it, man. I wish that I played soccer just because I feel like
Footwork.
soccer players, boom, football players specifically, and then Americanized football players, I believe they have the best footwork on the planet. So I wish that I did that. But those are all the sports that I participated in. I wish I did martial arts too, but I got into that like later.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mess around with too many other sports. I mean, football. I
Excuse
played
me.
football before I started playing basketball, but
Right.
everybody in my family is a basketball player, so it was predetermined, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and then when I got a little bit older, I I played one game of varsity football, and it was at a time when I was already being recruited by many colleges, and it was clear I was going to be a college basketball player.
Right.
And I played that one game, got one pass thrown to me, and got knocked out. Woke up with the smelling salt. Woke up with the smell of salt in the locker room. I was like,
Yo.
okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good with this. I'm taking all these pads off, and y'all are
Yep.
not going to see me again.
Hanging it up.
No, I'm good. So no, I
That's
feel you.
hilarious.
I didn't play anything other than football and basketball. It was just kind of I was always in gyms. I was always my dad played, my brother played. I was just it was normal for us, you know. So you played high school. You did you win a state championship or district championship in high school?
Uh, District, yeah, state, is
Oh,
still.
I can see
That's
you
just a
butthurt. Oh,
competitor.
you
Oh
butthurt
man,
about not winning state. You butthurt too.
dog. I mean, so I grew up. I think there's this unspoken like bond between every single basketball junkie. Like we're historians, man. You know, we can spit out like we're like mavens of random facts. Like, oh, Damon Stoudemire had 20 assists in this game on this date against
He
this
was my
team at
roommate in
this arena.
college, by the way.
Crazy, crazy. See what I'm saying? Like some these kids probably don't even know who Damon Stoudemire was. Like, but I'm one of those guys. I'm a historian of the game, you know. So it's very important for me to witness games as a spectator, especially when I was a kid. Like my dad took me to everywhere just to watch, you know, watch games. I wanted to play for the Harrisburg Cougars so bad, but you know, he's like, nah, like you're gonna go to school over here, and this is a better fit for you, and it really worked out. But for me personally, man, every team that we had played and we lost to in the state tournament, they ended up going to the state
Going to win.
championship.
Hmm.
So I was like, dude, like we were we were right there, you know what I'm saying? And then there was a stigma too as well when the PIAA at the time just opened it up for the Philadelphia schools to compete at the state level. So, you know, I remember we were one of the first teams up, and it's always this thing to where your teammates, well, not I'd say your teammates, but the student body, everybody at your school, you know, your peers are just like, all right, y'all about to play Philly, y'all gonna get smacked. But it's this bond that you have with your teammates that you build to where you guys trust each other and you know what's about to happen. You're like, yo, there's no way. So going to very particular arenas, like, you know, the first time that I played in the Hershey Arena was against Norristown, and everybody said they were going to trash us. And I was like, all right, Kobe won a state title here. Billy Owens did this 4 times in a row here.
Oh,
Wilt
Billy
scored a
Owens, he was
hundred,
tough.
tough,
He was tough.
right?
Tough.
Harrisburg won a state championship here. How many years? Wilt scored 100 points in this arena. And it's my first time playing here. Ain't no way.
Mhm.
Ain't no way. So, but yeah, man, definitely won a district title. What was that? 2003, 2004, 2004, 2005. And that was special just because we had a very, very special group, man. You know, probably I'd like to say we are the most talented team uh, in school history, but you know, I'm biased.
That's okay. It's okay. Um, so you ended up going to D3,
Yeah,
um,
man.
Norman University.
Yeah.
My question is, what is it like for a player to go to a D3? Did you think I should have been D1? You know what I'm saying? I went
Yo.
D1. I went to Arizona coming out of high school, right?
Yep.
And that I mean, there was no other option for me. It was D1. There was no question. But how is it for someone who ends up going D3? Do they always think, oh man, I should be on D1 level? Now we all know that there are hoopers in D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, all of that. That doesn't need to be said. Everybody has their own circumstances, why or things like that. That goes without saying.
Right.
But still, everybody thinks D1 is the best talent in college basketball, right?
Right.
So as a D3 athlete, were you like looking up like, dang, I should be there? You know what I'm saying?
I'll be very real with you, Sean. I didn't look at myself as even a scholarship player until after that game that I just mentioned against Norristown. Really, really good game for me. And a guy came up to me afterwards in the locker room and was like, "Hey, man, I want to invite you to Eastern Invitational, and it's at Princeton, New Jersey." That was my first time, like being,
Were
oh
you a
shit.
senior?
No, I was a junior at this time, going into my senior year. So gives me this pamphlet. I go to Eastern Invitational that year at Princeton University with one of my teammates, Casey McMasters, and that was a fucking eye opener. They give you a number, and it may have 3 digits on there,
Like
like a
Nike
number
Camp back in the day. Yeah.
170. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, like how many kids are here? Right? That was an eye opener to be like, oh, like that's a Division I player right there.
Right.
That's talent. And I just saw
Right.
some very talented guys. Until that passed that flyer on to me and gave me the invitation to go to that camp, I wasn't even thinking that I am a Division I player. So you have those aspirations until you realize, and it's not downplaying yourself, but I was
Mhm.
just like, like I know I could be better, but I'm cool with just,
Mhm.
at that time, to be very real with you, I just wanted to see if I could play in college anyway.
Mhm.
But I should have went to JUCO. If I would have went to JUCO, then I think that would
Mhm.
have changed my circumstances a little bit, But I took a visit to Harcum College out there in Bryn Mawr. I mean, they're huge now. They're one of the top schools, at least in Pennsylvania, when it comes to JUCO. But at that time, they were using the Sixers practice facility, and they just had some talented guys that just didn't make the grades.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go here. I'm really gonna have to work. And to be very real with you, I had no desire to continue to play basketball at that point. I was burnt out. I've been playing since I was 5. I was like, I'm good.
I totally feel you with that, and I really appreciate the honesty because there's a lot of guys that I interview, a lot of guys and girls that I interview, and they're like, oh yeah, I was this, I was that, and oh, I should have gone this, I should have been there, and I just you just think sometimes like your way is your way, your
Yeah,
journey is your journey, and you never know. Like I'll never know if I would have stayed at Arizona if I would have been a pro, if I would have been
facts.
an NBA guy. I left after my freshman year. Damon was my roommate my freshman year, and then I left after my freshman year, and I went to a JUCO, one of the top JUCOs in the country, 30-3 record. Everybody's recruiting me again. I end up saying no, I'm not going to go big time anymore. I specifically chose a small school so I could be the big fish in a small pond,
Right,
and that worked out for me. I don't lament not staying at Arizona. Who knows?
right,
You'll never know, right? So I don't have any regrets about that. I was immature,
right.
incredibly immature.
Same.
Um, I left on a foul note, like I'm sure they're still telling stories about how I unceremoniously left Arizona. Um, but yeah, you get older, you grow, and your journey is your journey. And I appreciate the fact that you're like, yo, that wasn't my journey.
Yeah.
And you could have basically said on here, oh yeah, I should have been D1, I should have been going to Duke. But you said like the truth, like, yo, that wasn't my level. I was
Yep.
good on my lane, and
Yep.
I'm cool with that. I
Facts.
appreciate that.
Yep. No problem.
Um, so even though you were at a D3, now we come with the connection to overseas basketball.
Yep.
Did you ever think, was it ever a thought about playing overseas? You probably didn't have the NBA dream, but did anybody ever talk to you, or did you have anybody that played overseas where when you finished college, that you thought maybe I could try going overseas?
No, because this is 2007, 2008. It really wasn't a thing as big as it is now, in terms of continuing your development. It was like more
Right,
so of a very hush hush type of thing. There were guys that we ran with, in the summertime and say during breaks throughout my college career where, like, oh, that's Strick and he goes to Alvernia and, he's played there. He's the top scorer all time and,
right,
he's playing overseas. It was more so of that. It wasn't as big of an industry and opportunity seeking thing as it is now. You know,
right.
uh, I think that's the most interesting thing about the game. There are so many different avenues that you can
Hmm.
go to get to where you want to get to. And that is in very particular, like use basketball as the resource to get you through that door for the long shot of the opportunity. Don't rely on your talents because we all have a short, time
Yes,
span of our prime. It's a lot smaller than what you think it is. We
yes,
all are not LeBron. He's the anomaly, okay?
exactly.
He's the
And he
anomaly,
spends a
but
billion dollars on his body every year. So
he got a Billy. He got him. He's a billionaire, and he has disposable income to take care of himself, to eat right, to get, an X amount of sleep, the top trainers to prepare his body to recover.
Medical staff, everything.
Oh, guys, like it's like Tony Stark if he was a basketball player. Like, he can put all these different things together to allow himself to just do whatever he wants to do. So, but yeah, man, that's very fascinating.
Like when I came out of school, it was 1995, and like I always tell people now, like I came out in the prehistoric days of European basketball. Like it's totally different now than when I came out.
Right.
So even like you said, even when you came out of school, it wasn't the thing that it is now. Now it's a very viable option. Of
Yeah.
course, with the rise of the internet, people are learning more. People have more access to more information about overseas basketball, so it's becoming a viable option.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, now I want to go into skill development.
Yeah.
So how did you start to think, okay, maybe this is a lane that I could be successful in. This is something maybe giving back to the community. This is something that I could focus on. When did you first have the thought, first of all? And second of all, how did you start to take the steps to start that?
Yo, I think my journey to becoming a teacher is just so it's ridiculous. All right. So for starters, when I left Newman, I did not pick up a ball for about 4 or 5 years. I was
Really?
done. For real. Straight
Wow.
up. I was like, all right, because at that time, I feel like I sacrificed from five all the way up into my senior year of high school, all the way up until playing 2 years at Newman. Like, and that's the thing too. Like, I dropped out of school, got my associates once I figured out, like, oh man, I'm taking general courses to get to my major.
Mhm.
Like, I'm out. I'm out of here. I do not want to be here. And then
Deuces.
exactly, right? And then personal things that every young adolescent goes through, and you're trying to navigate those things, and
Right.
you kind of think over time, like, man, if I made this decision here, I wonder how this would play out. But I don't think like that. I'm just like, all right, what happens for you, it happens for you, you know. But when I left Newman, Sean, I didn't touch a ball for years, dog. My boys would pull up on me and like, yo, man, let's go hoop. And I'm like, I don't do that anymore. They're like, huh? Like, what's wrong with you? But long story short, man, I'll never forget this. I was going to the library. I ran into a very good friend of mine. His name is Blake Hamilton, Central Dolphin alumnus, played at Monmouth University, went to play overseas for a very, very long time.
Mhm.
And just randomly run into him. And he's like, yo, man, are you here? Like, you're here. I was like, yeah. It's like, yo, if you can do this class at this community center just for the next month, I just need you 3 times a week. Just meet me here. I'll show you what to do. I'll walk you through the first class. I'll pay you. I'm like, all right, man, whatever. Cool. I was just at the time just having a state job. I was cool with just, having fun, partying on the weekends, like tapping into the stupid stuff
Right.
that you do in your
When
early
you're young.
20s, right?
Right. No, no.
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
not judging you. I got you.
Right. So I was like, all right, man, cool. So pull up. And I couldn't believe how easy this was. I was like, first of all, they're paying. There's like, what's a basketball trainer? There's a basketball community of individuals that are instructors, and y'all are paying them. What
Mhm.
is this? So I was intrigued. I was like, all right, cool. So I do the classes for that month. Pulls up, pays me, and he says, look, Jay, is this something that, like, I think you can really do this if you really just focus, man. Like, I'll show you everything, how to become a skill, like a trainer at the time. It was just a trainer,
How
right?
long ago is this?
Man, this is 2011, 2012. So, that's about what I left Newman 2008. So a good 4 years. I didn't pick up a ball, run into him. This guy tells me, hey, man, meet me at my house. Here's the address. Meet me here. I'm like, all right. I thought this guy had a basketball court in his crib. No, Sean, it's in the middle of the winter. I'm in a garage in central Pennsylvania just
Oh,
doing head, weight, sneeze, ball wraps. right? And I couldn't do this stuff like the 2-1-2. I couldn't do this stuff that I teach kids still to this day. The
The
basic
basics.
vitamins, as they call them, as my man David calls them, like essential vitamins. I couldn't do this stuff, and he
Mhm.
just starts laughing, right? He's like, "Yo, like you kind of like the kids that are trained," and that bing that woke me up.
Mhm.
So from that time, 2011, 2012, I just trained for 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 times a day for years. And that woke me up like, bing, okay, this is what you should have been doing. And that is just what started my journey, man. And from there, just working for different individuals and figuring out my lane. But, I'd probably say within the last 2 to 3 years, I've just been, going into business for myself. But that was my journey, man.
And okay, let's go into it because
Mm-hmm.
the the thing with trainers, I watched your YouTube video when you're talking about 5-year-olds having trainers now. I
Yeah,
think that is total bullshit. I
it's
think
crazy,
kids
right?
need to try everything. They don't Kids are specializing way
Too
too
early.
early right now. And I'm glad I don't have to deal with none of that. But how is it for you to be doing what you're doing now for a couple of years, and now there's a huge boom of skill trainers? How do you navigate and set yourself apart that you're just not one of those guys, one of those many guys, and that maybe don't know their shit,
Right.
and I know you do, but I'm saying there's a lot of guys out there that are just in it for the money, for the Instagram followers and things like that.
Yeah,
And
of
it's
course.
probably really hard to separate that.
Yeah.
How do you go about navigating your lane and just kind of putting in that work so that people recognize you as a credible source, someone who really loves what they're doing and that will help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, I think that's why, to be very honest with you, I personally never sustained a career threatening injury ever because
Mm-hmm.
my parents set a very specific foundation for us in terms of preparing yourself for movement, for the activity that you're doing. Like,
Right.
we would go to track practice, and before track, my dad's like, all right, yo, let's get this stretching and abs in. Here's this teaspoon of honey. Let's get this energy up.
Mm-hmm.
Parents don't really take the time to lay that foundation for their kid. And then on top of that, I look at trainers as not doing the knowledge of rescripting that particular player based on a very particular way that they've learned the game, right? You have to look at the foundation of where they started from. And a lot of guys really think that their word is bond. Like that way of approaching to teach a learned skill to a novice, my way is the highway. That's not it, because there's no cookie cutter approach that fits to every single kid. And
Right.
that's where I'm at now, because I look back at how I would work with kids at one particular time. Like kids would break. I knew doing a non-dribbling stationary series, kids would break because they don't do it. And they're like, I can't do this. Kids would cry. And I was like, damn, I would never do that again, because I'm literally like scarring them. I'm taking away that natural curiosity that they had about the game to make it fun. And you
Right.
don't want to scar kids. You just want them
Right.
to have fun and enjoy it. And then once they get to a point to where, okay, I fully embrace this, this is what I seriously want to do, all right, now we can approach this from a periodization standpoint, mesocycles, even a fitness based testing element, right? Some kids have broken bodies, dog. How many ACL
Yeah.
tears have we seen?
Yeah.
MCL
Yeah.
tears.
Yeah.
How many tournaments are these kids playing in, especially if they're up there like that?
Yeah.
Their bodies are done before they even reach their prime. Like,
Yeah.
look at Zion. You know what I'm saying? Zion was playing on every single circuit you can possibly think
Yeah.
of. His body was broken before he got to Duke.
Yeah.
So trainers need to be very, very conscious of the information that they're relaying to these kids, especially the parents, because at the end of the day, you should have their best interests. And it's not all about them. They want the praise and the shine and all those different things. But it's like, yo, dog, I want to help kids develop even if they don't hoop. If basketball doesn't work out for you, I'm proud at the end of the day that, yo, I taught this kid something that he can take and move along and be able to provide for his family. Like he can improve his quality of life even if he doesn't hoop. And a lot of people don't do that. They don't give a damn. And you know this too, don't they?
Yep.
They don't give a
Yep.
damn about these kids,
Yep.
bro. They're just using them like, all right, let's get this footage.
Exactly.
Let me get
Exactly.
these likes up. Let me get
Yep.
my likeness up. Let me get my cloud up, and I'm out. Like they use these kids, and a lot of platforms do that to these kids still. But we're not going to call them out.
We're
But you
not
know
we're
what I'm
not
talking
gonna call nobody out.
about.
Okay.
But you know what I'm talking about.
So my thing is, okay, I don't coach anymore, but I would consider myself a little bit old school. So
Right,
I'm not really into the social media on the court, filming live, these kids doing these drills.
right,
But what I think is really bad is that from the parent side, that a parent would pay someone to work with a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, for me is insane. That's insane.
mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing living here in Europe I can say I kind of like about the European system. There's a lot of things I don't like about the European system. Like, for example, you can't just go to a gym and play and have run. No, no, that's not happening over here. Uh-uh.
What?
No, they have clubs, they have teams. So you're practicing literally with your team
Oh,
year round. And but the good thing about that, what I think is good is they they train their coaches better. So out here, you have to get a coach's license if you want to coach on a higher level. You have to get a license. There's different levels. There's C, no, there's D, C, B, A. A is the top one where you can coach a national team. You can coach the first league in Germany or anywhere else. B, you can coach up to the second level or second division and all youth, right?
right.
And they take these courses serious. The D and the C is like kind of introductory stuff, but the B and the A, yeah, you learn it. Like it's like you're learning theory, you're learning practice, you're learning game situations. You're learning. You go to like different blocks, so they teach you to be a coach
Yeah,
in different facets of the game. So I have the A license here in Germany, but um, the coaches in your club, in your team, are usually qualified coaches. But back home, I think USA Basketball now has some kind of coaching program where they funnel
right.
people through and educate them. But literally, all you need is a ball, an outside court, and you can say I'm a personal trainer.
Facts.
I'm a developmental trainer. Eh, not feeling that too much.
Right. No, I totally agree. I think so. Segue into saying me personally, I just felt like I've gone through the ranks. So
You paid your dues.
that and then just having true hands-on experience. So I was a point guard. So that's when I learned that, okay, I'm an extension of my coach. I didn't understand until I actually coached
Hmm.
middle school, AU, volunteer assistant for multiple high school teams, to player development specialist for varsity, the entire program, to head coach of the JV teams. Like I didn't understand what it meant to have an extension of yourself until I became a coach.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, oh, I can't go out there and hoop for y'all. I can't do
You
it.
ain't
You
scoring no
have
buckets from the sideline.
nope, nope. You have to use this in your mouthpiece to communicate to your players effectively and then have the basketball IQ, the knowledge to be able to make adjustments, right? You can literally be getting diamond pressed by a team. And if you're a novice on that opposite side, if you don't know how to break a press, okay, let's get the guy open here at the top of the key. Stay away from the sidelines. That's the danger zone. Get the ball to the middle and look opposite. Get the ball to the middle, look opposite. Let's run.
Mhm.
Some people don't know how to make adjustments, and it just shows once their players are just not developing over time, or they're not making the adjustments. They could be winning by 15 at half.
Right, right.
Second half, they don't make adjustments, right? So having that experience from middle school coaching to being a point guard to just having different positions all throughout the ranks from AU to middle school to high school, I know my stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I can
You paid
coach.
your dues.
I can coach. And you got to do your research, man. Like,
Yeah. You
you know
got to
how many
continually work on yourself.
you know how many people don't like that say that they're a trainer or they're a coach or they're a teacher and they don't watch women's hoops? What's that about? Like they're fundamentally sound and the team concept is some actually I'll say that it's more cohesive than I'll say at a low at some of the younger ranks for boys hoops from
Yeah,
college all the way down to AAU.
I
It's a
agree.
very, very cohesive thing. Like it's a very tight knit, close knit family. You don't see that in particular with boys teams for some reason. I don't know what that's about.
Um, let's talk about handles from home. That's your
Hey,
your go-to. So let's pub that a little bit. Explain to the people out there what you do with handles from home, how you do it, because I think that's really fascinating. How you're actually, I'll let you explain it.
nah,
But
go ahead, Doc. Get it
I,
off,
I think
man.
it's fascinating how you were actually, I've been following you now for a while. So usually how I go about inviting people on the show is I watch them for a while. I add them and I watch them. I might not write, maybe I do, but or like you and I, we started wrapping it up on various things. But I watch and I try to see, okay, is this something that I can vouch for? Because if I'm going to have you on my show, I'm going to give you publicity. I mean, I don't have such a huge
Right.
reach. That's not what it's about. But still, I want to make sure that I give off quality information, right?
Of course.
So I watch you for a while. So I think it's really cool how you're actually there, but you're not there. And I've seen some of the videos that you posted and things like that. And I think it's fascinating. So I'm gonna let you do your thing and talk about your baby.
Bet. So handles from home, man, started during the pandemic. Um, I just noticed that, okay, if I physically cannot be there with the client, with the prospect, with the student, then I need to immerse myself in making myself available to them. And then that's very important as well, too, just about the way that I teach and just how you're learning a new skill, period. And this is when I was like, oh, okay, I'm a teacher. I'm not necessarily a trainer or a coach. I think that a trainer makes you sweat. I think a coach has the knowledge in terms of making adjustments and playing the five right players in that particular time to win a game. And I look at a teacher as a culmination of all of those things, right? Because you can
I
have a
got
great
you. I
coach
feel you.
and be a terrible
I feel you.
communicator,
Yeah.
right? So, like Larry Brown, great coach. Haven't heard that he's the greatest communicator with certain players. You know what I'm saying? Allen
Right.
Iverson, Stephon Marbury, things of that nature. But yeah, handles from home started during the pandemic. And that's when I just figured out, okay, I need to be able to service different people from different parts of the world and just do one-on-one sessions with them. And then being able to put them in a subscription model to where, hey, I'm sending you a workout every single week. This is just a regimen in teaching you really the constraints led approach of training. So it's more so of experiential as opposed to, okay, do this for an
Do
X
this.
amount of times,
Right.
rote memory. It doesn't work like that, even though repetition is the father of learning, as they say. But if you have the ability to manipulate the practice environment to a particular way that makes the game that much easier,
Mhm.
that's the way. I can't tell you how many times, and you'll probably laugh at this too. How many times do we see people posting content or teaching practice and they're giving the answer to the kid?
Yeah.
When
I
have
know
you
what
ever
you mean.
took a test? When have you ever learned a new skill? The instructor is like, here you go. Here's the answer. It don't work like that.
You gotta let them figure it out on their own.
Right? Like
It's
I'm
worth
sure
more.
that you can say like, what's the first time? It's self-organization, I believe, right? That's what I'm learning. So when I had my first breakout performance as a player, it's because all of the work had finally paid off, but I got it in my head that, okay,
Yeah.
I am who I believe that I am. And I had to figure it out on my own in that particular instance. Right. And that's what you have to allow these kids to do. They can put in all the work that you want to, but until you have that breakthrough performance, that takes self. It
Right.
takes looking in the mirror. It takes, it's a very mental thing to where you can just get out of your own way and start playing and all those things, just work out. But handles from home, we do virtual sessions. I've got clinics coming up here very soon in the
So,
summertime. You guys can book me, go.handlesfromhome.com. The link's in the bio. And then I do film breakdown service as well, which is super interesting
yeah.
to
Yeah.
literally just take a PDF. Like, you can send me any film you want to, from your practice to your actual games or AAU or rec. And I will literally take that footage and timestamp every single possession that you're in the game, offensively, defensively. This is what you did
That's dope.
well. These are your tendencies. That way, film doesn't lie. Because when would you say you started watching film?
Oh, early. I was watching with my dad games.
Right?
That was like, and where I would go, ooh, look at that dunk. He was like, no. Did you see the pass that led to the dunk? So
Right.
that was like the click in my mind. But I was young. I was young.
Right. Same. Right. I didn't understand though until I probably got to high school, and shout out to Coach Hassenfuss. He was my high school coach all 4 years. Well, 3 years when I started playing varsity as a sophomore. But he's the guy that started breaking down
It's
film.
important.
He'd send a guy out. All right, we got, Sheltonham. These are their top guys. He would literally he was a college coach to me. I thought he could have been a college coach, and he was. He would break down every single tendency of every single player. And I was just like, yo, this guy gets it. So I watched film early, and film doesn't lie. So you have a lot of kids that are
Exactly.
just based on highlights.
Right.
And I'm like, nah, yo, like, you ever asked, I want to see your film.
I don't want to see your
People will send me a
highlights.
highlight. Yeah. I'm like, this is cool. Where the highlight? Where's the film at though? Where's the whole game? Show me the
That's
game.
funny that you say that, because I when I do my consultations with people, and I also do film breakdown and try to figure out what level they can play at overseas.
Yep.
And I'm like, yo, don't send me no highlight tape. That's the end result. So when I was coaching also, I wanted to see the mistakes that you make. That's more important than, yeah, that you can shoot, that you can score 30 in a game. Yeah, okay, great. Everybody does that.
Yep.
But what do you do that split second after you turn the ball over? That's what I was interested in.
Yep.
Also, when I was evaluating players to bring into my teams, like, if every coach has their kind of cardinal sin. One of mine was, you turn the ball over, you don't get back on D, I'm
Oh
done watching
man.
the tape. You might have scored 40. Mm-mm. Or a small one would be, not a small one, but a big one for me was, hopefully if I could see like the bench area. I want to see, when you come out of the game, do you give everybody five? Do you sulk? Do you encourage? Are you an active participant in a timeout
Right.
when you're not playing?
Right.
Those are things. If I saw a guy coming out of the game and the coach got his hand out and he don't slap that coach five, nah,
Yeah, that's a red flag.
those are not problems I want to have. No, I'm
Right.
good on that.
Right.
So that's also the things that people don't realize when they talk about, oh, I watch film, and what do scouts look at? What do people look at? They want to see your mistakes. They want to see what you don't do well and see if, yeah, can I help you get better?
Right.
you know or do you think you're God's gift to basketball, and you don't make a mistake.
Right.
So that's exactly, I feel you on that one. I'm kind of running low on time. And I got a couple more questions I
Yep.
have to ask you. What's your biggest challenge in what you do? Because you're basically remote, so you're watching. I see it. You're like watching what someone is doing in their garage or wherever they have their tripod set up or whatever, and you are instructing them. You've given them a plan, and you are giving them very small details that they need to work on, right?
Yeah.
So what is the biggest challenge in something like that?
Man, the biggest challenge, majority of the time, I'll be very honest with you, is driving home the factor that, yo, I can work with you as much as possible on an individual or group session or basis. But yo, if you don't do these things by yourself, it's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is where transitioning into just being more so in front of individuals, because that's an entirely different feel from doing something
Right.
virtually. Like
Right.
you can talk to a girl all day, but when you see shorty, like it's different.
Right.
You know what
It's
I'm saying?
different.
It's
It's
going to be
different.
entirely different. So that's the biggest challenge is just explaining that to kids. Like, yo, you have to do the work, be accountable for yourself. That's the biggest thing.
Got you. Um, let's talk a little bit about your artistic side.
Hey,
You got a digital art collection
yes, sir.
called Courtside at Rucker.
Yes,
I
sir.
know it's coming out soon. What can you tell us about that?
Man, courtside at Rucker, roughly 120 pieces that I created using artificial intelligence called the Mid Journey. So you just put in a prompt. You can have very specific effects, characters, lighting, atmosphere, courts, all those different things. But it's really just about using your imagination and creating what exactly you see in your mind. I've always been into art, period, way before I started playing basketball. A lot of people are like, that's your first love. No, like I love to just write. Writing was the number one thing I love to do. So, courtside at Rutgers is very important to me. Number one, being it is a NFT collection that allows anybody in the entire world to be able to invest into a digital piece of art that acts as an admittance into my community.
Right.
So I don't care if you're in Africa, I don't care if you're in Australia, anywhere in the world, we all have the ability to come together and learn. So guys get access to my app, your beta testers for the app. You guys get in-depth lessons every single week about artificial intelligence, financial literacy, sustainability, agriculture, uh, technology. You know, I'm a full stack dev, so just really giving kids that skill of having an online academy, regardless of where you're at in the world, and you can invest in yourself. So I've never
That's
seen
dope.
anybody really do that, especially in the basketball community, because the majority of people are just focused on hoops, and I get that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But like I
Yeah.
said, what happens if that kid injures himself and he's just focused on basketball? We don't want to booby miles these kids. You know what I mean? We don't want to do that. So,
That's dope. How did you get started with the digital art stuff? Like what was
oh
the
man,
driving force? Just your love of art period and it kind of pushed you that way or
I got to shout out my guy Lance and my guy Paul. Right, so two guys from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They really put me on to the space, as we call it, with NFTs. So once I just had a continuing curiosity for that, and oh, okay, well, if I can invest into this piece of art and I own the intellectual property to it,
right?
then that means I can create essentially anything that I want to with a brand or product, anything that you can possibly think of, and I own it outright. I no
Right.
longer have to go be a middleman and create these things or create a deal that's structured in a way that is unfit for the artist, for the creative. So really looking forward to just educating people on that more, especially college athletes and pros.
When is that coming out?
I believe I said March 18th will be the
18th?
first quarter. March
Okay.
18th. So 4 quarters, right? I'll split 120 of those pieces up into 4 quarters. So first quarter release is March 18th.
Dope. And you also got a book series called How to Move with a Basketball, Volume 1.
Yes,
What is
sir.
that about?
Man, that has led up to the culmination of everything that I've learned about movement, right? Like we talked about very earlier. Man, I was wrong initially, right? Like I would be like, yo, if you can't do figure eights, one hand going backwards, forwards, like get out of here. Like, nah, man. Constraints led approach in allowing people to self-organize and manipulating practice environments that make practice harder than the game by, say, minimizing this space that they have on the court, adding 3 players, just manipulating things as much as you possibly can. Adding constraints is the wave. That is literally how you can allow kids to adapt to, as many different stimuli as possible. And that allows them to just self-organize and go ahead and move. So it's really my way, my first take on just how I'm teaching people to move now. It's entirely different. I see that there's a lot of people that focus on constraints-led approach right now. But this is the thing, and it's so fascinating. There's not one particular mode that works
Right.
for every single
Everybody.
player.
Right.
And going in that direction from a sports performance standpoint, that's where I'm at right now. So I'm excited to get that out.
And when is that going to be out?
That, what did I say? April 1st.
Okay. I got a couple more questions for you, more
For sure.
quick answer ones. What is the best part of what you do?
Man. So, all right, you guys probably like go to my feed when you see this, go to my last post. All right, that there is fascinating. All of those kids in particular. So, long story short, see if I can get this in. When I took that position as the middle school 8th grade boys coach, I took that position because I saw kids at the lower ranks and then they get into high school and they were the same. I was like, what happened? Like, you stopped working? No, there was no feeder system, if you will. There was no pipeline that was teaching these kids how to continue to develop. Because a coach at the high school level, they don't have time to teach you how to Euro or finish with your left hand or how to defend a pick and roll or break a press or, they don't got time for that, right? So I wanted to impose that at the lower ranks. For me, I took that job and I saw that there were some very, very talented special kids. And now they're all in college and like they're doing extremely well. Shout out to Ty, shout out to Keenan, shout out to Rance, Scotty. Like all of these kids are playing well, even if they're not hooping anymore. They're still playing other sports. Cam Sony, like I'm super, super proud of these kids. So to see them develop over time is a beautiful thing, and to be able to build that bond with a kid off the court. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people are, they can't relate to a kid. Like I probably got, like I said, and you see it, I probably listen to the same music as these kids. And when you can build that relationship off the court, like they'll do anything for you on the court. They'll go, balls to the wall for you.
Yeah. What's the worst part?
I've
Is there a
learned,
worst part?
I've learned to like just understand that some kids are just going to make decisions based on what they think is the right thing to do at that time, and it's for them, and it may not pan out. You can have a ton of potential, but you can't want it for somebody. And you have to just let them figure it out and be like, all right, man, that's when I couldn't reach. It's all good.
Okay. 3 words or phrases. Tell me what they mean to you. Short. Community service.
Essential.
Why?
Man, what are we doing at the end of the day, right? Are we really taking the time to invest back into the places that are the pillars of society? Are we taking the time to seriously do that, or are we all just in it for self-serving purposes? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I agree. Fundamentals.
The building blocks to learning a new skill. Any learning skill essential.
That's really profound. That's dope. That's maybe one of the best key phrases that I've heard in a long time to explain something. That is incredible. That's dope, man. And fatherhood.
Oh my goodness. Dog, it was my man Mike say, if you have a kid, man, and it doesn't change you, then something's wrong. Something's wrong. Literally being able to create life and nurture that over a period of time is just something that I don't take lightly at all, especially when they look just like you. You know, so I have a boy. Shout out to Kazi, turns 8 on Thursday, and baby J will be here shortly.
Shortly.
Anytime I'm having a girl,
Right.
so I'm so excited about that. I got to get softer, and I
I was
am.
gonna say I didn't know it was gonna be a girl, but now that I know it's a girl, hey, being a girl dad is dope, man. Being a
Yeah,
girl dad is dope. Is dope,
absolutely,
right? So
absolutely.
they always say that boys belong to the moms and girls belong to the dads. So um, being a girl dad is incredible, man. It's no,
Absolutely.
having a boy is crazy too. Like he looks like you, he walks like you. You know, he wants to follow his dad around, but
Right.
the girl is gonna take care of you when you get old.
Right.
Is going to take care of you. The mama's boy, he gonna be
Yo,
take care of mama.
I remember that, dog. I appreciate
Remember
that.
that. So man, I could actually listen to you. We could rap for a long time, man. And I really like especially the last part where you said something really profound. I could rap with you about this for hours, man. I appreciate you taking the time out and coming on my little podcast, and I'm looking forward to watching you grow because I think you're doing things for the right reason, and that's something that I really appreciate what you're doing. And I love when people do something with passion and that they do it for the right reasons. And I think you're doing that. That's why I wanted to have you on, and so you could share your story as well. You know, it's not just about bigging up what you do, but also to tell your story and to inspire someone. That's what I hope to do as well. So
Thank
I
you.
I really really appreciate you coming on, man. And I know you got the bun is in the oven is hot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you get back to your family because I know it could be any minute now. So yeah, once again, man, I appreciate you coming on and we'll talk. And yeah, man, I'm really floored. I
Thank you.
appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you, Sean. You're a respected legend. So anytime anybody asks me to speak to them and take time out of their day to talk to me, it's just incredibly humbling. So thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. Love is love, dog.
No problem, man. I'm gonna hit you up anyway. So get on
For
up out
sure.
of here.
Later, bro.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
So people, so teammates, that was another great episode. I'm really happy with how that went, and he's dope, man. He's dope. What the last one of those last things he said, I'm gonna think about that for a while because that was very inspiring to me as well. So yeah, that's it for tonight. Next week I'll have another guest on as well, and yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's safe. Continue to do so, and for those of you that are new, I hope you'll be back next week. For those of you that are old, thank you for your continued support. So that's it for me. Have a good night or day, wherever you are in the world. And yeah, that's it. I would head out.